Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 239, and I hope you've all had an amazing week. It's definitely been a lot calmer lately compared to the past couple weeks, but in a way, it's also been quite exciting over there in the stock market with yet another weekly candle closing at new all-time highs for the Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ, and the Russell 2000. And not only was it a historic weekly candle close, it also happened to be a bi-weekly candle that just closed up for this week. So all of the major indices, including gold, just closed their highest 2-week candle closes ever. What a time to be in the market. Now, with that being the case for the traditional markets, after having about 3 weeks of sideways price action and gold finishing off this specific week down over 3% on the weekly close, it's starting to taste like what happened in 2020 after the C19 crash, followed by the V-shaped recovery, and then we watched gold hit a new all-time high for the first time in almost 10 years, going back to the peak of 2011. And then once we had a clearly overbought RSI on the monthly chart, we watched gold stall out, and over the following 4 months, gold corrected about 15%, while all the major indices put on at least 10% gains, and that includes the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ. And one thing that's very important to mention is during that 15% correction for gold, which is pretty much this one from here to there, we actually saw the Russell 2000 push up around 18%, and it also broke out into price discovery. And now we're here in 2025, of course, with literally the same exact setup as in 2020. With this year, instead of the C19 narrative, we had the tariff narrative also happening pretty much at the same exact time of year as well, February through April, with the same president, Donald Trump, the same V-shaped recovery, the same, quote, uncertain price action in late September into mid-October, same. So now that we're here in the final week of October with an all eyes on the market date coming up on Wednesday later this week, the day the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting, which you know will be the talk of the town all week, especially while the major indices plus gold and silver are trading at all-time highs, actively in price discovery. And as many of you are probably aware, we'll likely get a rate cut this week, and now the market awaits hearing Jerome Powell say the words quantitative easing, which will bring crypto into euphoria vibes, something we haven't seen since Trump won the selection almost a year ago, and we're approaching the 1-year anniversary of that event very soon. By the way, that's not me saying that in this meeting Powell will say that word, those words, quantitative easing. I'm just letting you know that that is what the market is waiting for in order for us to shift into peak euphoria. So as you can imagine, we have a lot to cover here in today's podcast. So let's get into it. But before we get started, make sure to get relaxed, get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's a little earlier in the day, or a glass of wine or beer, or any beverage of your choice if it's a little later out there in the matrix. And also make sure to comment below this post here on Patreon to vote on the altcoins that you'd like me to cover in next week's Red Pill podcast. But please, before you leave a comment, just make sure that you use the search function here on Patreon to check that I have not covered the project in at least 3 months. So if it's been over 3 months since I've last reviewed that altcoin, or if I've never covered that altcoin before, as long as it has at least 1 year of chart history, you can go ahead and comment below with the name of the altcoin, and please include the ticker symbol next to it as well. And whatever submissions get the most likes, those top 4 will be selected for next week's Red Pill. And this week we'll actually be going over quite a few charts just because we're setting up for this very important monthly close. I'll be breaking down a little bit later why it's so important. But you could probably tell based on the environment that we're in here right now, it's definitely important pivoting into the month of November, which we saw what happened with the market last year in the month of November, and also the year before that, and also even the year before that. It's a very important time of the year, and what we're about to pivot into will be based on everything that we're about to see in these charts, and also, of course, what Fed Chair Jerome Powell will be spellcasting with everybody with on October 29th. So as mentioned in the intro, in a couple days, we do have the FOMC meeting on October 29th, which will be incredibly important since it's tied to April 2nd. Many of you remember this date. It is Trump's Liberation Day. The day that really spooked out the markets and led to an even deeper market crash into the date of April 7th, the 4-7 date with that 47 code, just like Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States. And it was allegedly his decision to move forward with that Liberation Day on April 2nd. So it's, of course, directly tied back to him. So keep that 47 code in mind. Because from April 2nd over to this upcoming Wednesday, October 29th, the day that Fed Chair Powell will be spellcasting the markets, these two dates are 211 days apart, and 211 is the 47th prime number. So we have that 47 code coming back into the mix again. It is very important. This is actually something that I brought up in Decodes weeks ago here in a Red Pill podcast leading up to this week that we're about to transition into. So just wanted to recap that here today at the start of this Red Pill. We're actually not going to be spending too much time here on the Decode today because we have a lot of charts to review, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. But getting back to this, when we don't include the end date, this will naturally be 211 days apart from October 30th. So the following day, again, this 47th prime number is in here. So keep that in mind as well, especially since October 30th will be the 303rd day of the year. So when we remove the zero using the rules of numerology, we come back to this master number 33, the master number of transmutation, changing from one form to the next. And speaking of the 33 connection with this master number, if you take from the day this FOMC meeting is happening on, the 29th of October, and you tie it to Donald Trump's birthday, June 14th, you are going to see that these two dates are 137 days apart, and 137 is the 33rd prime number, naturally making the following day, the 30th, also tied to that 303, that 33 code. So I want you to keep this in mind because 138 ties directly back to Donald Trump in Gematria. You have Donald Trump giving you 138 in the code. This is very, very powerful stuff, guys. So think about this upcoming Wednesday and Thursday. They will absolutely be, I don't even know how to say it, probably some of the most important trading days for the rest of the year. So another thing also to mention about all of this is tying it back to Chinese New Year, which will be on the 16th of February in 2026. And when we tie it back to the day that the Fed speaks, these will be 111 days apart. And this is a powerful number. Some would call this an angel number, whatever you want to call it. This 11 code or the 11 code, to me, it means like a reset. And this 111 would just be the reset with emphasis. So like a really, really powerful reset energy. And that to me could very well be the case here as we're watching gold peak and we're watching the crypto market pretty much in despair, where there's these clear polarity differences between fear and greed, right? Now, think about that because that was pretty much the case back in August of 2020. And then when we made it through into Q4 of 2020, heading into 2021, we watched the crypto market get euphoric. And we haven't really seen euphoria here for some time here in crypto land. So this is a big piece to the puzzle here, I believe, because we also have February 16th, the 47th day of the year, and we're tying it back to Trump as the 47th president, and we had that other 47 connection moments ago tied exactly to this date, with that 211 number being the 47th prime. And this is kind of like our stationary middle date how time works as it ripples out. So we had dates that were connecting to back in time and a date that this connects to that's very important going forward in time. And this isn't just any other day. February 16th will be the Chinese New Year and also the annular solar eclipse. So, of course, early next year, likely at the start of February 2026, a couple weeks before Chinese New Year, I'll have the new Year of the Horse Decoded released here for our mastermind community, continuing our tradition here and adding on the Chinese Zodiac series with yet another powerful decode. I pretty much make that my decode for the year. So we did Year of the Snake Decoded, and that set us up for the year ahead. That's exactly what the Year of the Horse Decoded will be, coming out in February of 2026. So stay tuned for that. Anybody who's watched my Year of the Chinese Zodiac Year Decode series knows that I pour my heart and soul into those, and they are packed with gems, pretty much preparing you for the entire year of 2026 in this case. Now, also, one other thing to keep in mind is later this upcoming week, the FOMC meeting will be leading into Samhain, or what people call Halloween, on October 31st. This is why you might hear some analysts calling this upcoming Fed meeting the Halloween FOMC. This will probably be called Halloween FOMC Decoded, but since October 31st lands on a Friday this year, that means everything will be closing off their monthly candles together. So that means the stock market, precious metals, Forex, and cryptocurrency, they will all be closing at the same date. And this will also be a bi-monthly candle. So that's a 2-month candle close. So the 2-month candle closes this upcoming Friday right after the FOMC meeting. And this could technically be perceived as the final macro candle close of this year that we're actively trading in, since we won't have any 2-month, 3-month, or 4-month candles closing until everything closes up together for the year late on the night of December 31st on New Year's Eve. So this makes the upcoming 2-month candle close crucial, especially based on where sentiment is at right now. And also, one other thing to consider is the fact that we won't be having an FOMC meeting in November. So the next FOMC will be on December 9th and 10th. So this week ahead plays the way this week plays out, will really set the tone for the rest of this year, in my opinion. So with that being said, let's pivot over to the charts to review the setup into the week ahead, as well as our upcoming bi-weekly close later today. And of course, we can't forget about the October monthly close later this week. So I'll definitely touch on that as well. And to start off, I want to kick this TA session off with gold to see how this potential, quote, great rotation, unquote, as I've been calling it, is setting up for this upcoming monthly close here in October. So we're going to be starting off with gold, going to go into this weekly analysis. I'd actually just stay on this chart. We have the daily. You can see that we've made it all the way up to about 90 on the RSI on the daily chart for gold, and on the monthly, we got all the way up there to 91. And you can see that right over to the left over here, 91.75. So at one point, this was at 92. I'm sorry for all this noise on the screen. This looks better. So when I zoom out, you could definitely see like this cup and handle formation for the most part is effectively complete. This has been a wild rally. I mean, you could effectively measure it like this if you'd like. Double click that, get rid of that extension. You have this area right here, which was a resistance and acted like a support once we got above it. And then we finally had our pivot in August of 2023. And if you wanted to measure it that way, you can see we are far extended above the measured move on that. Of course, we do have the fact that this is a logarithmic chart, but however you want to look at it, man, like this is a pretty overextended rally. So I'm going to go back to my logarithmic. And even if we were to push this to its resistance which isn't really my favorite way to do it, you can see that we've hyperextended above this as well. So when does that happen? Usually in FOMO times. And it's pretty interesting because a lot of people have been coming out and saying that retail is not selling their gold to rotate into crypto. Guys, it doesn't even matter. Retail bought the fucking top. Like retail doesn't buy the bottom. So this is hilarious when people take this concept of the great rotation and take it out of context. See, the thing here is institutions are able to make money in whatever direction they want. The central bankers are able to make money in whatever direction they want. Their whole job here is to just manipulate you, is to just keep you in your emotions, make you doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and getting in your feelings at the wrong time. So clear pill to pivot over into these charts, but it's just, guys, we're pretty much topped in gold. It would be great, of course, if we went higher, but when we started hearing stories about people lining up, waiting for hours to get gold, and for the most part, I would assume like somewhere about 80% of those people waiting on those lines were buying gold for the first time in their lives. That's top signal type shit. So that was how 2021 ended for crypto. We saw people who never bought crypto in their entire life start FOMOing into the top of the market by making their first big purchases ever in crypto after we were already seeing literally similar macro RSI reads. We were seeing already on the weekly RSI for a lot of these cryptos at the time in the high 80s, some of them 90. And that was what people started piling into. So I do hold gold. I converted about 10% of my net worth into gold over here in October of 2023. Some people here remember it. If you guys are OG Wolves, you remember what led to that V-shaped recovery. Funny enough, that pivot happened exactly after the hand gliders went over the most protected wall on Earth into Israel. This isn't a joke. That was like an actual story they fed us. And then we V-shape recovered out of that. And that was the exact pivot point that sent us into this craze. So I don't want to call it lucky necessarily because I was prepared a year in advance for the Jubilee. Now, I was teaching about the year before that, also here and also on YouTube. It was called the Shemitah year. So the Shemitah year was from 2021 September to 2022 September, and then from 2022 September to 2023 September, we were in the Jubilee. So I made the decision to convert about 10% of the net worth into gold right as that was wrapping up. And then wild that we had the event happen just a couple of days after. And it got scary for a minute, but then that was, in my opinion, the exact trigger point for people to start going more risk off in that play. But obviously, we know once we had Trump win the selection a year later, everything started to go quite euphoric again into the traditional markets. And then lately, we've been seeing a lot of policy change with regards to tariff narrative, tariff world war, as I call it. And that, of course, has exacerbated this as well. But getting back to this whole idea, I mean, for the most part, we are overheated on gold, and it's time for a little bit of a cool off. And I am not actually going to say that the way this will sell off will be identical to this move here, because it never is. But when we go back to the last times this happened, especially for gold, we'll see that it does have a bit of a correction during these times. Like here, we got about a 9% move, and that was during the big rotation into Bitcoin and the altcoins. So during this time, Bitcoin had an insane rally, and we had one of the most mind-blowing alt seasons of all time. And then this also happened as well back in 2014. It was right here. So from August, I believe it was right here. Yep. It was from August 2013 into the end of August, I believe. Let me double check that. I might be, because gold has been doing this for a while now. Like, it was literally stuck in this pattern for a decade. So crypto has just been born somewhere around here. In regards to like the big picture, Bitcoin was sort of just trading alone for a little bit. Obviously, XRP joined the party, Dash, Doge. I think even Monero might have been around back then. I don't think ETH hit the market until like 2016. So again, we're in quite a Quite a baby market. Let me just quickly go to Bitcoin. But yeah, it was the year of the snake when we topped. You can see right there, December, late November, early December 2013, in the year of the snake. Remember, we're in the year of the snake now. And when we look into October, we did have a pretty nasty correction right here. I know it doesn't look like a lot, but it was 23%. The recent correction on Bitcoin, I think, was only like 16%. So this was a big shakeout. We did have a little bit of sideways for a couple weeks, and then we pivoted. Now, I believe the pivot was most likely due to this eclipse season initiating. We're at a different energy in that way, but also meaning I don't think we're going to have as big of a move. I don't even think we'll get this move personally. We'll be lucky to even get a 50% Bitcoin move. So I'm just letting you know what the difference is. We're not in a solar cycle anymore. So I do not see such a big move, but the timing of the move, it does make a lot of sense for me for this to be complete late November, within the month of December for Bitcoin. And if it does get extended, I don't think too much further than that. So we're kind of in the late stages of the cycle. I'm sure you guys have heard many people share their opinion on that. And also one other thing to say, even if Bitcoin were to have topped already and we were to call this 126K or whatever the top, on Bitcoin's rebound up into like what would be a bull trap, that's also when we have alt season. So we saw this effect happened over here, where we had Bitcoin have a major correction at the end of 2017. And it was this move right there where it made a lower high. We were seeing a wild rotation out of Bitcoin into alts. And a lot of things started topping over here, like this final hoorah. So effectively, if we were timed to be somewhere in this mix, you can still see this is quite a bit to go. When we're talking crypto, we get a lot of trading hours for the fact that we never take a day off. Let me just check my audio real quick. All right. So we're good on track with this, and generally with gold, when we're seeing RSI reads that are this extreme, this is typically a time where we start to stall out. And as I showed you over here, it was the case the last time we got up this high over here. And then we went on some sideways. Weekly, it's pretty clear. We are in like uncharted territory of high RSI reads. We got to 85, I think. What is that? 82, 85. Yeah, 85, man. That's high. It's very, very high. So cooling off a little bit here would be good. And at least the first 100 days of the correction would make sense for it to go as such. And you could see into here what that play was like. So I do believe I talked about this a little bit in an update, how if we were to take the timing for the next 100 or so days and we were to apply that to the crypto market, this actually gets us to around Chinese New Year. And that would not be weird because in 1965, trading into 1966, that's been a big theme here in my work. Again, that was the last year of the snake. That was specifically the wood snake year. And we saw all sorts of crazy shit happen that year. We saw the US go to Vietnam and bull run continued. So it didn't matter about Vietnam. Still were bullish all the way through New Year's. So we've had an almost identical recovery in the way that we had the crash back in 1965. And the way that we started coming up into yearly highs at this same exact time of the year. So I'm expecting it to go very similarly in that way. And that's why I'm entertaining the possibility where February could even be like a quote unquote top for altcoins, like pushing into February. It would be interesting, though, to hear people's opinions about the solar and lunar cycle in all of this, because this will effectively be the quote-unquote shortest lunar cycle that we've had. I think 2019 might have been a little shorter. And when you look at what Bitcoin did in that time, let me show you really quickly. It should be this chart. Yep. When you look at what Bitcoin did in the 2019 recovery, so we have bull run, we have bear market, and once we pivoted, we went up literally parabolically, perfectly into the start of the solar cycle. Look at that. It's a J curve, an unbelievable move. And then obviously we had some chop for quite a while, even with this black swan event in the midst of it. It was until we made it through the final solar eclipse that we really started to see the euphoria come into the market. So this kind of J curve into the start of the solar cycle is pretty fascinating because I wonder, does it happen between March into August? And this would make the cycle look very interesting because it's like, do we get something like this where we have a wild move from here, April into August, where we get a crazy crash in the middle of that? You know, that's one thing I'm thinking about. Hard to tell at this time because it feels like altcoins are like here, like in horrible vibes, while Bitcoin has just been holding and holding and holding and going up higher and higher and higher. And that's clearly the case still here to this day. And I think if we were only to get a push up of like 2 or 3% more, we would effectively, yeah, like only 2% more, and we would be closing the highest monthly candle ever for Bitcoin. So we'll get into that in a moment. But it won't take much of a rotation out of gold to make this thing occur. Let me quickly check back in with gold. I should actually look at it on this chart. We already reviewed this chart last week. Got a very nice bounce off of this resistance right here on the flash correction. And then we're seeing the recovery as I stated over here. 2 weeks recovery should bring you to October 25th. Yesterday was October 25th. And when you look at where we're at, we're pretty much right there above support. And then if this were to play out how it has in the past iterations, we should be seeing about 36 days of breakout, which would look like this phase here or this phase here. Now let me go over to gold. Just want to look at some moving averages because we are probably far above all of the key moving averages. Yeah, we are far above the 200s. It's actually been some time since we had those. Let me turn off the drawings. So funny enough, the last time we saw the gold, the daily chart on gold below the 200s was October 2023. Now we are far above it, and it sits right around this last horizontal level that we traded through between 3,200 and 3,400 per ounce. So it's gone parabolic since. We all know this. And when we get too far separated, that gets a little unhealthy. So you see here, this was the C19 crash. We perfectly crashed into the 200s. This is kind of why I'm keeping this on my mind. And I would suspect in 2026, there's an opportunity to retest these moving averages. And it might be something like this, where you see we peak, we come back to it. Funny enough, what I was just showing you guys over here in this chart, this bottom over here is this over here. That move, let's get back to it, in December. No, sorry. Right here in late November, early December of 2020 was piercing through the 200 moving average, right as the 200 simple was crossing above the 200 exponential. This is wild how gold doesn't do this too often, guys. Like this is I want everybody to understand this is very rare what you're experiencing right now. This is very rare, getting this hyperextended over the 200 moving average. But I would say then, in like my quote unquote professional opinion, that a retest of the 200s likely like Q2, Q3 of 2026 makes a lot of sense. And I don't think we're just going to smash down and have this thing crash. And I wouldn't want it to. I don't think anyone here should want it to, because the rotation isn't going to happen if it just smashes down like that. If it's smashing down, it's because everything else is crashing. And then that would be like it'd be a black swan event type thing. But this kind of slow slow drop where it's sideways, drops another level, sideways, drops another level, sideways, drops another level. That's the vibe that you would want for the quote unquote rotation. And the only people that I guess wouldn't want that are people who are 100% in gold for whatever reason. I'm not sure how you made it to this podcast. Congratulations. You're one of the rare bunch. And it's fine if people are just all in gold right now. Congrats, man. That's amazing. You're killing it. You're in one of the best performing assets. Just be careful, be cautious, because this thing does have something to give back. And we technically don't really have like a landing pad until we make it back to 3,300, 3,400 per ounce. This is thin air until we get back to 3,400. All right. So don't be discouraged if this meanders on down back to those levels. Silver, it's almost the same conversation. I don't go over silver too much, but I did bring up the fact that it's normal once we break into all-time highs, which silver hasn't done for 45 years. It's normal also to backtest the prior all-time highs. So a solid setup here is the fact that we have this crazy parabolic peak back in 1980. We have the second rejection in 2011. We've broke slightly into price discovery. Now we're getting a little bit of a pullback into this, and unfortunately it's the same story. Like, we have thin air coming all the way back to like 42, 40 per ounce, and on our local chart we're talking 36, because we have a little bit going on here at the 888 fib, and this is a very important 888 fib because it's a macro. Then we have here a lot of chop. You can see this bull trap vibe over there, but weakness. Here we had clear weakness because we broke below that level, came back to it, got rejected a second time, and entered a bear market. So we want to be careful here on silver too. A lot of people are just thinking silver goes up forever, and be careful, guys. That type of belief here in the market at this stage of the cycle is insanely dangerous. It's the same thing I would caution with the people who are talking about a $250,000 Bitcoin. Like, you don't want to be that type of guy right now. So just be careful here, because it's also thin air all the way down to the 888 fib around 35 to 36 per ounce. And this can absolutely start selling off now too. Doesn't matter. Again, it's been going up in a straight line for some time now. This is kind of how the market works. So I'm still very bullish though on gold generally for the next, until 2029. After the next Shemitah year, I am not bullish on anything. I will have a brand new investment thesis for going into Agenda 2030. So I think it's very important that we prepare ourselves in that way. And my solution to it is waters above university. Like, literally everything we're teaching over there is going to be the quote unquote way to invest your energy, time, and money moving forward in this new world that we're about to move into. Because these assets are not going to keep doing what we saw them do over the past 5 years since C19. We're going to see a lot of structural change in this whole world because of AI and mass layoffs, and the housing market being very toppy, and commercial real estate clearly being just put through a ringer right now. I mean, it's great to see gold doing what it's doing, but the fact that gold is doing what it's doing, that's a huge warning sign. So I'm not saying that to promote anything that I'm doing. I'm saying that because this is a time to shift your mind away from being in these speculative assets and start investing in yourself again. Start investing in your vision, and you're not going to be able to do that by being in these cryptocurrencies. You must generate cash flow. So anyways, we've had our university closed down since July. We only have the current members that are with us right now, and we will be reopening on New Year's 2026. I'm really excited. Now let's get over to Bitcoin. And for those that are interested in the university, we will be talking about that in a couple months. But for now, we build. We build in the background. 1 second. We just double check. We're good. We could do a quick rundown on the stock market. Where are we at? God, these bearish divergence signs all over the place. It's haunting. What a breakout. This is a really clean breakout to me because we're not just talking about like a couple daily candles. We're talking week after week after week after week. And the washout candle that happened on the week of October 6th has just been completely recovered. So this is still like full on bull mode. And the fact that the Dow hit 47,000 points, got that 47 code, doesn't shock me. You got the NASDAQ hitting that 25 code. The Russell hitting the 25 code. 25 is the code of this Gregorian year of 2025. So we're seeing quite a bit synchronize, especially with silver just breaking above $47. So another 47 code. ETH also wouldn't shock me if we come back to that 4700 soon, because we saw it hit 4700 in the same fucking week that we saw the flash crash. Like crazy, right? So yeah, I mean, fuck, this ETH chart is starting to look really good with the fact that we had this like kind of triple top vibe, break above it, rejection at the prior all-time high, slight new all-time high to trap bulls, and then we come back to it, wash out, but then hold the 888 fib at the exact triple top level. Like, that's gorgeous. I know a lot of people might be getting bearish right now, but like when we just turn off the noise and look at the chart, I'm not sure why people are getting so bearish. Again, it feels like a coin toss right now, because at the end of the day, that's all this stuff is. It's, do we go up or do we go down? It's a 50-50. So you have to definitely be very secure in your investment thesis. And if you're one of those people that created a solid investment thesis, then you're not really too concerned about the coin flip. But not a whole lot to say on the Dow, S&P, NASDAQ. We're just kind of continuing this run. And I still see, like, for example, this NASDAQ has the 26... Oh yeah, call it 2,700. 27,000, excuse me. I think 27,000 is in play, but we do have to keep an eye on the fact that we have support, support, support all the way up until Trump becomes president. And then we had this 47-day correction. And then once we've V-shape recovered out of it, we're now getting clear resistance on the outside. So if I turn this onto a daily and I was to shut off some noise like this, you could kind of see what I mean. Like, we have a clear relationship with this overall trend line, and the trend line's pointing up. We're going up. So there's a couple things I like to see here. This original fib pull from the top of 2021 to the bottom of the bear market, we already hit this 1618 fib. So if I pull it over here, you'll see what I mean. So we already hit through that level. You can see it kind of popping out over here. And once we broke it, we were also confirming higher highs from the pre-tariff crash top. And that's like a double confirmation of a very, very bullish market, because it's like, tariffs who? And then also at the same time, you're breaking above macro targets. So this momentum is still very clearly to the upside. But I'm going to delete this for right now because it's kind of making things a little bit noisy. And generally, I would like to see at least 2,700 before I start getting like very uncomfortable, in my opinion. Just want to see where this is at right now. Oof, we already above the 6 spot fib extension. That's dangerous, bro. We're in very dangerous territory, guys. This is pre-Great Depression type market move. I'm not saying we're moving to the Great Depression now. I think that's going to take until 2029. But this type of market right here is very, very, very spicy. Very spicy. That's why I think crypto having euphoric alt season is like one of the biggest signals of all time to completely get out of the market and like reestablish your plan moving forward. What could be crazy though, and I don't want to scare people with what I just said, but what could happen in 2026 is this type of crash, you know, like where it happens in the same year. And then we just keep pushing up further and further and further into the next Shemitah year. And that would, again, of course, become an amazing buying opportunity. It's usually not until the Shemitah year where we have something like really transformative occur. Like, for example, we had over here the Shemitah year, and the year before that was the transformative event of C19. We had the 2008 market crash that again was very transformative for housing with subprime mortgages. Then we have the experience before that was the dot-com bubble, again all happening in the Shemitah year or based around the Shemitah year. This is why my outlook to the next Shemitah, which is 2028, is based on the way that it is based on this idea that 2026 might be like a quick bear market. Like we might just have a quick bear market like the one we last had, where you can see we topped at pretty much the start of 2022 and it was over by the end of 2022. We were already recovering. That could be how it goes, man. And that'd be a fucking gift. So when we get there, I mean, you'll hear me talking about buying all the time. But you have to buy a market that's very, very scary. And you can't just be buying into these speculative altcoins in the next bear market, because look at some of them already today. Look like horrible. So you got to be careful with that too. Let's move over to total, because I did have that on the chart. I already went over this, so I'm not going to go over that again. We have total 2. Also looking pretty solid in my opinion. Higher lows. Higher highs. To me, we've now built up a lot between this 888 and the prior cycle peak on total 2. So this is excluding Bitcoin. It includes Ethereum. Keep that in mind. We've now built a lot between here with this fractal over here and over here. We're ready. We're really ready to move. We're not exploding through it like we did the last time, but remember the last time we got overextended through it and then we had to have a 30% correction then. Here we just got the 30% correction out of the way after making the new all-time high. You know what I'm saying? So we barely broke it and then the market maker said, fuck you. But it's the same shit happened. The same shakeout, the same like getting the same scary move effectively. It's just we've actually had a much healthier structure moving up than this one, which was like a massive W. This one was a bear market, clear bear market, where this is an opportunity area, obviously. And then our recovery has just been following fibs. So once we got above the 382 level, we came back to it, had a bounce, came up to the top of the golden pocket, came back to the 0.5 fib, swiped down to the 382, had a bounce, came up to the 888, swiped down to the 0.5 fib, held structure, got back up, hit the top prior all-time high, then we've had a swipe back into the golden pocket, and there's buyers there, man. So we're just continuing to stair step up. It's a very bullish market to be in. It's not breaking structure at all. Then we have this chart, of course, total 3. Very fascinating chart because I believe we could be experiencing this all over again, where we have October 2023, we're at this trend line, right? Then here, we've come back at the same exact time. Very like strange market to be into because it hasn't been this type of move or this type of move in a while. We've just been grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding till we had the liquidation event, which was like also a sentiment reset. And now that we've caught back at the bottom of this major support trend line, this is typically an area where it gets moving. So you have over here, this is October into November of 2024. That's when it goes parabolic. And then we have the same thing over here. We have a lot of chop, and then finally we make it to Q4 of 2023, straight line breakout. Chop, Q4 2022, straight line breakout. Chop, and now we're here at this inflection point. So we'll have to see, because when I copied the fractal over, what's fascinating is it brings us into like March, April, which I'm not sure about on the timing, because that would be after the total lunar eclipse, the final total lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle. And this will be strange to see the market like continuing bullish into March, April of next year. Even though there is seasonality on our side, we've seen it happen before. I'm sort of feeling like it has to be a one or the other thing. So 2017 market makes a lot of sense for what we're seeing right now. where we've seen Bitcoin just continually have these 20 to 30% pullbacks the whole way. Then we had last year at the end in November, the exoteric event of Trump winning the election. The whole market went up and then it caught up for the most part. During that catch up phase, we've since had a major correction in a lot of altcoins. You could see it right here because this is from Jan 2025 down to April of 2025. We're now like right back at that level. We're just recovering, right? Again, this is total 3. This isn't just some random altcoin that you're isolating. So we're looking at total 3. Let me hide this for a second, right? 2017 had a similar vibe where it was just very, very, very uncertain until the very, very end. Well, 2021 was the world was uncertain of what the fucking world was going to do because of C19, because of this fake germ bullshit and the masks and the V and all the other stuff. So that there was uncertainty in like, bro, is my job ever going to come back? Is my business ever going to be able to open up? And like, am I going to be able to eat at a restaurant ever again without wearing this silly diaper on my face? Like that was the vibe. We don't have that anymore right now. So it's way more market focused. But what we do have is this inflation, right? We have a lot of people kind of squeezed out by the fact that prices are higher on everything we consume. Anywho, let's move on. To me, this setup isn't as bearish as some people I think are making it. Now, I want to quickly do this with you guys because we've drawn this chart out before, and since we've had clearly a different thing occur. And I think it's this. You see this point over here? I actually think it needs to be, I think it needs to be moved over here. And this is this. I should take that. And now, whenever the fuck we get back up to here, it's that. Question is it straight line vibes? Well, what's fascinating is look at the timing, guys. This was November, the start of November 2024. Are they going to hit us with like another event next week? I'm not sure. I don't think it has to be so specific. Like the one thing I'll say about last year was this was after the new moon. We've made it through the new moon this month. It was a little choppy. Clearly, we haven't like fully recovered all the way back for the more speculative altcoins. But what's clear here is that there's strength in the top altcoins, whether that be Binance, XRP. I mean, XRP is back at fucking 260. It's like this crash never even happened. Yeah, look at that. So we turn off everything and XRP is back at the same price that it went parabolically into before it started to chop around. Like, that's not the end of the world structurally. I know this recent break doesn't look so good, but you got to remember, like, this asset sort of defies the laws of TA. So you got to be, you also got to be careful just looking at one thing in isolation and going, oh, it's over. But anyways, getting back to this, the fact that we had this sledgehammer hit the market, and technically we were bought back to the 236. It reminds me of over here where we had a shitty October into the start of November, held support on the 236, and then we just had a major pivot occur. So I think that's more the setup here. And if this were to be the case, I'm not sure if this aligns perfectly, but this is the end of the year where the 1618 sits. And even if that was extended out until like late January, you can see that target from where we are. It's definitely sensible to get 3 major touch points and perfectly in alignment with the golden ratio. So just so you're aware, this fib is pulled from that swing high over there to the recent swing low, or to the swing low over here in April. I'm not going to count this because this is pretty unfair. But all in all, you see the setup. And I'll address this chart in isolation at another time. So let's quickly look at Bitcoin on the monthly. Let me turn this off. Bitcoin on the monthly, indecision candle. It's like nearly a perfect doji. We have last monthly close coming in at 114K. We're sitting at 113K. What I don't like right now is there will be a CME gap below us. So what I could see happening is there's a shakeout this week. Perhaps we fill that lower gap real quick and then we could spring back up. Or what could also happen is that we actually have a very bullish monthly close. We see Bitcoin come up to like 117, 116K. And then we have like November 2nd or November 3rd, when the week opens again, then we have a little bit of chop. Then we have a pullback and then we resume from there. It could happen like it did last year, where we had like the first couple days of November looked like shit for the crypto market. And then things resumed and it was all good in the hood. So we're clearly at resistance here for Bitcoin. That's one thing to say. But we're not in panic alarm button mode right now. Like, I mean, I just can't call it until I start seeing closures below 102 on the monthly. In my opinion, I don't want to see a close lower than the January monthly close, the start of the year. I don't want to see that. So I'll be 100% honest. If we start seeing that, then I'd be like, fuck, that's not good. But the fact that we had a shakeout all the way to backtesting, that exact level, as you can see when I hold my cursor this way, and then we've gotten pretty much bought back up, that's a good sign too. So it's tough to say that Bitcoin is at expensive levels right now because who's buying this dip? Well, it's not retail. So there's some institutional buying happening at this like 100 to 105K level, clearly. And they were probably there to buy up as much as they could in April during that bullshit. But now there's clearly a lot of buyers where retail couldn't even possibly scratch the surface of here on Bitcoin at 100K. Tough to call it fair value. That's always, again, speculation at the end of the day. And whatever anybody uses to confirm fair value, I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter because a black swan event could happen and Bitcoin could go down to 50K in a couple days. These people that run the markets, they don't give a shit. So it just seems, based on the way Bitcoin reacts to this 100 sub 105K level, that there's a really strong buying pressure coming in. So that's also very bullish to see. And then on the bi-monthly, we would be closing at all-time fucking highs. So yeah, man, I mean, that's a that's a 4%, almost 5% candle. That's not bad. But the bi-monthly that came in before was 1%, and it was a continuation candle nonetheless. And some people are going to use candlestick analysis here, and they probably were calling the top here. Whatever, man. Like, the thing is that the momentum and everything continues to the upside on Bitcoin. And that's, again, when you check in with Bitcoin dominance, if it's starting to see weakness, which clearly we did on the prior 2-month candle, look at that big, massive red candle, almost down 11%. And then we've had some absorption, getting sunk right back below 60% again. These are signs that we're about to see a big rotation. This is what happened last cycle and the cycle before that. So we've went over for the most, but let me just quickly check in on the weekly, and then I just want to see the moving averages. Okay, so fantastic. So we are right there at the 13 EMA. We have touched back on the 34 twice and 3 times a charm. So this is like kind of this is the thing where we should be bouncing from here. That would be like structurally sound. This 2023 thing that we did is much more similar to what I'm seeing right now. Very, very similar setup where we're just kind of like arching to get here, and it's taking time. Pretty much the same. It's feeling like this. Right there is right here. And then right here is right here. And then right here is what we've done. And now we're closing in on the end of that. We just want to see Bitcoin above this 115, I'll call it 115. We want to start seeing Bitcoin back above 13 EMA on the weekly soon. We do not want to see that. Sorry, one second. We don't want to see us spending too much time below that, because then this will start to cross to the downside, and we don't want the 13 to cross below the 21. So bouncing off of this level is pretty solid. All in all, I feel like we're back testing the end of 2024 highs, and we're holding it as a support now. So that's a good setup. Ethereum is back above 4,000. So we had weekly close last week. looking weak because we were below 4,000. Now we're back above 4,000, and I already kind of shared my thoughts. When you zoom out and hold your cursor right here, you're going to see that these were areas we were once getting rejected off of. And since we did hit a new all-time high for ETH, we've dug back into that same area to really, really confirm, like, are there buyers here instead of where there was previously just clear selling pressure? And there's buyers here. These are all absorption candles. So I like to see that. And guess what? That was the same shit that happened in July, late July. You see this major red candle almost 10% down, but then the following week it was absorbed. We were up 22%. So there's something to this move back up to 4,000 ETH. It's feeling like it's quote unquote fair value now, where there's people willing to pay this for Ethereum, where we were not getting that energy since effectively late March 2022, where you can see this area we cascaded down from. We had our bull trap, and then every time we got above this level right here, we would get smacked down every single time. Now we're back there and we're kind of chilling. So I would like to see ETH, of course, cross the $5,000 level, because that's where I think it'll signal euphoria for crypto, or the start of euphoria. Now, weekly chart on XRP is not looking good, but this is how we looked last year. Same. We started closing below all the major moving averages. It looked like shit. And then we had a nice recovery there. And just a straight line breakout. So I don't rely too much on these moving averages so much for XRP because of this. It's a very, very difficult asset to use basic, any form of technical analysis on. One thing I've seen people getting some good quote unquote success with is not Wyckoff method, but Elliott wave. But even their wave counts, they're always kind of adjusting them to fit their whatever, their narrative, and that's also not my favorite thing either. So bad Elliott wave is like bad everything else. Good Elliott wave still has room for people to finagle it to fit however they feel is best. So my whole truth here is, when you're looking at XRP, you kind of just want to keep coming back to, like, what's the broad market doing? And where are we seeing this kind of return back to prices that we would normally see weakness, and are we seeing strength? And if you're ticking that box, then that's a good sign. So clearly we're struggling above 3, but also clearly we are dominating above 2, where $2 on average XRP would have sounded like a fucking gift back in 2022 and 2023. But now people are getting bored about it. So that goes to show, like, how things change over time. The average investor has gotten used to $2 XRP, but that was not the case for years. So we've made quite a run up. And what I've been teaching people about XRP is, I know people are getting impatient. I know we all want, the moon tomorrow, but I would be very happy to see XRP building all this strength up here at $2 to $3, because if and when it breaks out, when it comes back down, we might not have to deal with sub $1.50 XRP ever again. And that would be really nice, right? As opposed to this shit that happened in the last cycle, where we went straight up to $3 and then we came right back to 20 cents again. We even went back to 10 cents again. We took forever to start breaking back into 40 cents again. This was in 2023, by the way. This is in 2024. We were still trading at a low 40 cent. So getting XRP back to, breaking out into $8, maybe $10 and higher, we would hope that this has built enough strength at this level to where we go up to these prices, and then when we come back down, we start to, like, stabilize here, as opposed to just crashing down to hell again. Let's move on to our other altcoins today. We have a new one. I don't believe I've ever looked at this before. It is called Swissborg, which has had a hell of a move recently, kind of like a unhealthy move, actually. Interesting. Okay, so it was part of this major move on the 10th. How much are we down? Okay, 30% correction. This is fine. I like to see this. In the midst of a run up, you want to see 30 to 40% corrections on altcoins. Whoa, what is going on in this chart? Yeah, it sucks when stuff like this happens. It'd be so cool if we can just delete it. Can anybody like get call up TradingView and be like, "Hey, can you allow your users to just delete these like scam wicks, please?" So we could actually do TA without it being obnoxious. Anyways, this was a hell of a move that it had in the last cycle. Wow, 25,000%. And I love the fact that it came back to this same area of around 12 to 14 cents and it held support. So we have a couple lines to draw on the screens that'll be very helpful for what is happening today. So here we have some good developments. Yes. Okay. So we clearly have our bear market has been completed. Sorry, it's hard for me to do TA when I have this massive scam wick, so I'll do this. What we're seeing is we had the end of the bull run here. Oh, beautiful. We did come back down to this level and then went even deeper. But for the most part, if I was to show you this reverse fib and you bought anything around this 1618, you were in a good position because that was effectively all the bottom. So now that we've had that, let me pull the fib the other way and you could kind of see what's going on now. So we finally broke above this level, which was like the make or break. We got rejected here, I guess, effectively in March 24, also again in December 24, and now we're making the move back up and we're back testing it. So I really like this, actually. Good chart, guys. Thank you. Very cool. Good votes, family. This is cool. So this is like exactly what we start to see before a major breakout. So you finally can clear these local levels of resistance, coming back into an area where you were sort of struggling with at the tail end of the bull run. What we would want to see from here, obviously, is clearing this top level, the 786, top of the golden pocket. And then maybe even a little back test like that, a jump up, and then I think it'll be over. It's pretty fast. Just consider that, look at this. Oh shit. You see, this was late October of 2020. This is what we've been dealing with lately for everything, guys. This bullshit. Just sinking into late October. And then once that was through, this thing went up, this thing went up 2,100% in 4 months. So even if it started this journey over here for this specific asset, actually I would just call it from here, same place. Yeah, that'd bring you into Feb. 126 days. Wow. Like literally up to the perfectly into the end slash beginning of March, late February. Fascinating. Although like expecting such a major move at this time, it's lesser than. It's lesser. I don't think we're gonna have as explosive as a of an alt scene as we did in the last one, unless something dramatic changes about this market. And guys, if it does, good. I would love to see it. But I'm feeling like a lot of coins might not even make it up to like the 888. A lot of coins might not break into new all-time highs. And then even the really good performing coins might do kind of like what Cardano did in the last cycle, where it's just a little higher highs than the prior cycle. So like whatever, 60 or 80% higher from the top. And in this case, it would be, on the extreme, it would be a $3 Swiss Borg. So from where we are now, Again, that'd be a gift. A 500% move from here, from a majority of the support, you can see that's like about what we usually get in a bull run for crypto. It's between 1,000 to 3,000% is like a pretty wide range, and around 2,000% is like what we were seeing in the last cycle. If you were going higher than 2,000%, again, you were like measuring from extremes, like the exact bottoms. But from a majority of the touch points, which is what I just marked off this measurement from, you're seeing about a 1,800% move. And from here it's about a 500% move, which is still amazing. It's really amazing, but to start entertaining things like $10, it's just I don't believe we're going to do stuff like that. In the last cycle, a lot of us were surprised by how much higher things went than anybody could have imagined. And that was kind of the thing that made Shiba and a couple of those projects that were released really late in the cycle, that was what made them so dangerous, because we were seeing things like, Theta, or what are some other good examples? Like I remember Theta specifically, where it just had such an incredible bull run. And then everybody was assuming that, like, as these new coins were launching for the first time, that like they would all continue up and up and up and up and up. And it was right about that time where the sentiment was so clearly in extreme greed. Uh, yeah. Now what's fascinating is I'm seeing some of these charts pop up where we're getting moves like we're getting here with Swissborg, and nobody cares. Like, so it's like slowly creeping up into recovery. It's slowly showing us like this uniformity in a lot of alts that we're getting ready. But this is clean. I love this. W breakout, back testing the neckline, and then I would assume your measured move is somewhere back into the prior all-time high. So I'm just going to do this. So yeah, about at the 888. And once you get to the 888, there's thin air because you don't have a lot of trading range up here, just a couple weeks. Cool chart. Next. Whoa. Okay. I haven't looked at WorldCoin in a long time. Is this the Open AI project? Yikes. Okay, so this shit went straight up at launch, and then now it's like it's kind of like Trump coining us, you know? Straight up trumping us. Let me look at that real quick. Is there a Trump coin? Oh no. Uh it reminds me of that fucking, what is that? Family. Oh no. Yeah, this sucks. This sucks. Yo, fuck this coin. This sucks. Oh my. It's lower. What a scam. I love it. This is why I will never create a cryptocurrency, because I'm like, first of all, it's obviously all a scam, but this stuff really, like, this really nails it, doesn't it? Wow. All right, we're not covering this today because it's not part of the episode, but like I just wanted to check in because damn, WorldCoin is looking better than Trump, but whatever, doesn't matter. I'm just going to delete this. I haven't covered this project in a while. Clearly sunk deeper in the April 7th tariff situation. What's unfortunate here, guys, is we don't really have too much chart history. Okay, we do technically have 2 years, which is wild to say because I feel like this thing was just created like yesterday. But with such limited chart history and nothing happening before 2020, I can't really judge like how does this project do in the worst of times, and the C19 time was the worst of times. But some cryptos are doing even worse than the C19 times. What a gorgeous fib pull that is. So you see what I just did? I pulled from this pivot right here up to the current all-time high, and it gave us the level that we sliced through like a samurai sword. So that was nice to see. I love the reverse fib pull. I feel like it's very, very helpful. I'm going to turn this on a area chart. I like to do this sometimes with my TA just so I could get the closures. So this is a weekly chart. This is on area. This is all weekly closes. We did have a little bit of an attempt at a breakout over here, and like quite a high push to be followed by a rejection. So bearish, not really anything to get too excited about. Structurally, this is in an awkward position because I don't want to pull a fib from, I'm not going to pull a fib from this swing low here. I feel like that's not the best thing to consider right now. Just given that everything washed out and all of us were locked out of our exchanges while it was happening. So it was like a real solid heist. These fucking cowboys. Okay, guys, seriously though, a couple things to mention is I'm going to change the color here to like an orange, and here is your green. This red line right here, when we break above that, I want to see what we do, because like the technical play would be getting rejected again at this point and this point, which was initially a support. We'd want to get rejected there, but then quickly backtest and then quickly bounce and clear this line right here, which was a support and then turned into a resistance, and then we had a bull trap to then be rejected at the same level again, followed by a deeper correction than the one we had here. Let me know if you guys like this type of TA where I'm like walking you through it. So the setup here is that once we get back to this 380 level, I do think that will be a sharp move back up, because there's really nothing more happening above here. It's very limited above that level. It's just one, maybe got about 3 months of it, but ultimately this could all be broken through pretty fast. So in my opinion, it would go something like that. And then the fact that it's trading here below $1 might be, I don't want to say this because you guys are going to hold me accountable, but it might be a steal. How do you feel about OpenAI and Sam Altman, the guy who killed his best friend apparently, or whatever? I don't know. I'm joking. That's a joke. That's a joke. I'm not. Yeah, don't come after me, Sam Altman. So yeah, like I'm feeling like there's a play here. The chart looks like shit, and I don't have enough chart history to really feel confident, but hey man, like generally it's projects like this that have needed to give back a little bit. They need to become unpopular and unimportant, and then out of nowhere they take off again and have a recovery phase. So, generally if you take oh god, this is crazy to see. Sorry. 95%. Holy shit. Okay, so it's already had a full-blown bear market and it took exactly a year. Yo, I kind of want to buy this. These are rare moments on Waters Above Red Pill podcasts. I kind of want to buy this. I had no clue it lost 90-5%. Holy shite. And then we're at the bottom. Okay, it's not as good as 70 cents, but like still, like from where we are now, if I get back to this golden pot, ooh, yo, this is to the 888, it's almost 800%. I might buy it. I might invest. I'm taking a note. Invest? Question mark. Okay, I took a note. I like this because I've seen this type of play before on many projects, and the fucked up part is sometimes they pivot hard. Sometimes they don't do that backtest shit that I told you. They just go poof. And the timing and how late we are in the cycle, I'm excited. I'm taking a note on WorldCoin. Thank you guys for voting on it. It's probably an absolute shit coin, but I don't care. That's how I'm playing right now, baby. All right, so we're looking at Flare, and this is another project that I've had some things to say about. We are really building up in this pattern, aren't we? This thing is milked. So this has been ongoing October 2023. Well, you guys see something funny here? October 2024. And then we got October 2025. And what happens every fucking time? Is this it? Is this it, guys? Are we gonna? Is this pattern gonna play out for? Do I have to invest in Flare too? Is that what we're doing today? Is this piece of shit going back to 12 cents? I know somebody's getting mad right now. They're like, "You called it a piece of shit." Meh. Like you created it. Like you're sitting there in your fucking pajama pants in a sunken into a beanbag chair with VR goggles on, like still having like the residue of Cheetos on your fingertips. You getting mad at me right now? Did you program Flare? Are you the guy? Is the guy from Flare here? I doubt it. All right, this is the part of the podcast where it starts to become like a roast. So I'm just having fun, guys. But seriously, no, like I like this pattern. It's been just jumping back and forth. And honestly, anything below the 382 is a buy usually. So when we're seeing structure build where you have higher low, higher low, higher low, technically higher low. And then we're also seeing it kind of like coil up at the same time, squeezing more and more and more through this pattern. That tells me that a breakout is imminent. And, you kind of want to be positioned in some of this stuff if you have no exposure. But I don't want to say go out and buy Flare because this has been an underperformer for the most part. And I'm just seeing a chart that's on the brink of breakout. So it's kind of like that's what I'm excited about. But if I had to be honest, the last chart I looked at, I was a little bit more interested in the world coin. So don't just like get into buying stuff right now, late cycle, just because. And this move right here, it's a 500% move. This move right here up to what was our breakout target? Like 12 cents. It's also like a 600% move, but I just showed you WorldCoin getting up to the 888 is an 800%. It's not like a be greedy and go for the thing that's more, but generally I would rather go with that WorldCoin play personally, or maybe some others. We'll see. We still have a couple more coming up, but this is not bad. I think generally it's holding structure. We have an October pivot followed by an October pivot followed by we're approaching potentially another October pivot. We want to see how that goes. Wait for confirmations also. So like buying as things are kind of on the sketchier end to the downside feels like you're trying to catch a falling knife. It's not recommended. It would usually be recommended once you can see that we're starting to actually have a strong looking chart, which this doesn't look like that at all. All right, so we're on BitTensor Tau. Also looking good. We can see the washout over here. The candle finished green on the week, guys. Holy smokes. So even this is very strong. Wow, I'm surprised. So even though this shit broke down on October 10th with everything else, it got bought right back. Something is holding it up in this $400 area. And every time it gets below 350, it's been a buy lately, at least. You can see that to be the case here. You can see that to be the case all over here. And it's soon after back above 350. So this is great. Generally building a lot of strength here. Kind of a double top vibe, but how much was the correction? Okay, fucking 80%. That's a lot, but not weird. What about over here? I bet this was in also, look at that, into the month of October in 2023. So it did have this kind of really shitty sell-off until it pivoted. And we had no president here. We had no Trump winning. It was just a pivot of energy. So be great if it happens this time around, of course. Not a whole lot to say on this actually. I wonder when I last covered this, was it in June or something? I bet it was at a similar price because when we're looking at a chart like this, it hasn't really made a decision. It's kind of right there, dead center. So we can see it's between the 0.5 fib and the bottom of the golden pocket. Hasn't really made a decision yet. It's kind of figuring out what it wants to do next. So with that being said, I could give you guys confirmation. I would say look for the 702 fib. If you could start closing above 480, that'd be nice. 500 on a weekly or bi-weekly close would look really good. On next month's close would look really fucking good. So if we could kind of just meander back up to 500, close off November, I think December into January would be a very explosive time frame for for this asset. And only thing I would look out for is potential repeat of something like this, where we have a really strong, like a too strong November, and then we top mid December. We have a pullback into the start of the year, and then we have that like February push up. Who cares if it kind of extends a little bit further? But that kind of mimic of the move could be the case. So just think about this, guys. If we have too good of a November, expect volatility in December regarding potential pullback. If we have a very boring November where we're like halfway through November and nothing's fucking happening, then December could really be that push into the new year. And then January, February makes a lot of sense still, all in all, for alts. For Bitcoin, I'm not so sure of. I've been kind of expressing my thoughts on Bitcoin, that I'm entertaining the January idea, but I'm still more focused on November, December, because I don't know how much more Bitcoin has to give. I could see right now we're getting a little bit of a rejection in the charts, maybe needed as we're about to have the CME open up in a little bit. But let's get into the final project today. It is Artificial Super Intelligence Alliance, ticker symbol FET. Used to be Fetch AI. Now this has had a horrible correction since this is the end. I don't think this has a higher high coming in. That would be your buying climax, I'm going to assume, because this is your bull trap. And then the fact that we went lower here and got rejected at the same level we broke down from, and then took another leg lower, and then now have been filling out this wick to the downside. This doesn't feel good to me. I would say that this is pretty much cooked. It had that major move already. I'm not sure if it has the juice in it to push one more leg higher. It's already done so well, man. Like if you take from the bear market up to this peak, it was a 3,400% move. That's excellent. You know, like how much more could you imagine? Even right here, it's 1,500% move from the level that we're effectively at right now. And then since having a 90 something percent correction, I'm not sure if it has the same vibe as like the WorldCoin example that I was giving you guys, because WorldCoin hasn't had this crazy move up. But this, on the other hand, taking from the C19 to the buying climax in 2021, that was a 8,000% move. And then from this selling climax over here, it's technically a 5,000% move. That's like a full bull run. And it's thing that it's just did recently is a full bear market. So it's not like I'm bearish necessarily. Like I think in this environment, we could have things get bought back up. So if somebody wanted to speculate at this current level and we were to get back to this area over here, like, I mean, it's still about a 400% play where we're getting all of this kind of chop. And that would also be the buying climax from the last cycle. That's what I would personally expect if we're going to get bought back, which is great. It's a 400 to 500% move, but there's a billion altcoins to pick from, you know, so they're all going to do something if Bitcoin has a rotation. And if XRP and ETH start breaking out higher, and especially if you start seeing things like Tron really start moving, because they've just been slowly chopping to new all-time highs, wait till you see an explosive move, you know. So this already has had multiple explosive moves and has completed a 6,000% push to the upside, getting very overbought in my opinion. Let me go to the monthly. So yeah, you're seeing a monthly RSI approaching 90 at that same time. That's kind of like, yeah, breaking below 50, probably in the 30s right now. Okay, 41. So it's below the 50 level on the monthly. It's not looking like any buying pressure is coming in at all. It's just perpetually selling off more and more and more. So whoever was in this winning is now just every time there's a little bit of weakness coming in from the market maker pushing a liquidation ritual, retail gives more back. Until it's just going to come all the way back to the same levels it was trading at in the bear market, which would be like somewhere around 10 cents. So I would personally avoid a chart like this just because it's already completed such an amazing move. If you're already in profits on this thing, Well, first of all, if you took profits on this thing earlier in the year, congratulations. If you're somebody who's like in profits right now, but you've been just riding this thing back to this full correction, not financial advice, but you could wait for this to pop back up, given that everything else has a recovery. But I would not be adding to this position personally. Out of all the ones I looked at today, I mean, I feel good about this WorldCoin play. This was really interesting. I haven't looked at this project in some time, and I feel like all the charts, this might be a solid opportunity, kind of hovering around this 80-cent support. I suspect if we were to get any turbulence this upcoming week or maybe in the first couple of days of November, that this would be probably around the low 80-cent, mid 80-cent again. Whether it's there or here, excuse me, doesn't really matter. I do like the push to the top of the golden pocket is almost 600 to 700%, and then the move all the way back up here to the prior peak is approaching 1,000% move. So that's a hell of a play. Last thing, I just actually want to look at Binance on the monthly. It's looking decent, very toppy though. Definitely a little more toppy than I would like. Bi-monthly also a little toppy, but not nearly as oversold as overbought as it was back in 2021. Same thing, we're not even close to as overbought as we were back in 2021. So yeah, I still think we have room generally. Again, sticking to the overall investment thesis. So I'm going to wrap this one up here, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's Red Pill podcast. Spent a lot of time in the charts here. We will, I believe, have a little bit of a CME gap to the downside when we have the Chicago Mercantile Exchange open up in a little bit. Definitely a pivotal week ahead with the upcoming FOMC on Wednesday. We decoded that date leading into what's called the Halloween FOMC. So we have a hell of a monthly close coming in on Samhain, on Halloween. And I will definitely be giving you guys a written market update later in this week. Let's get through the FOMC and then I will share my thoughts. I appreciate and am grateful for every single one of you. Wishing you an amazing rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.